T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Even though I know normally TK, Trinidad, our fearless leader, would be doing interviews, it is just me. I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, the host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and host for Women's Wrestling Talk and commentator for the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, and more recently, Black Girl Magic 2, which is on Title Match Network, which you can catch right now. So please check that out. It was a great event, and I was happy to be a part of it. But today, we have an amazing show and an amazing interview for you guys. With me now is the absolutely radiant and the Swiss sensation, Michelle Green. How are you, Michelle?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join up, and even just seeing your intro again is so exciting. Everything that's happening in women's wrestling now.
Yeah, like our intro is probably one of the best intros that any show has, period. Like I love it, and it just makes you excited. It lets you know what's about to be on the horizon for our show. So I love it. It's the pure embodiment of women's wrestling. I love it so much, and I'm glad you like it too. So I'm
Yeah.
going to start by asking you, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
Um, I started watching like 7 years ago, so it was like 2015 because I read about Cesaro, who's also from Switzerland, like myself.
Hmm.
And then I just watched it over a weekend, and it just dove head over heels into it. I was just watching on YouTube, and then I used to like do home workouts, and it was the time of the women's evolution too.
Hmm.
And I would just see like these fierce like Amazon warrior queens fighting, and it would just really motivate me. And I think that's how it kind of started. And then later on I'd start like listening to podcasts because of course once you got like the bug, I think that's for all of us, then you like want to know more about it and talk to other people about it. And I used to go to like shows to Germany and watch them there, and they would have all women's events too, which is called Femme Fatale by WXW.
Hmm.
And I remember being there, and then I would go to the meet and greet and see all the women there. And standing next to them, it just really inspired me to want to pursue this passion too. And it's going to be really full circle because I'm going to be part of this year's edition of that in October. So it's been an amazing journey and lots of fun.
That's amazing. So basically, you started watching wrestling from seeing someone who's from Switzerland, just like you, with Claudio
Yes.
slash Cesaro, which is a great place to start because he's an amazing athlete, like really great.
Yes.
And then you saw, of course, the women's evolution take place as well, which I think is one of the best places to start, in terms of women's wrestling, if you're just into it in the most recent couple of years. Like those women were amazing. You have Charlotte Flair, a lot of the women who are still employed with WWE now. You have the Four Horsewomen. You got Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bailey. all of those women, and then you have the Bellas and you have Alicia Fox and so many other women who basically helped to put women's wrestling on the map for WWE. And it's good that you got that inspiration, and then you were inspired by the women around you, even in your own country and even in Germany as well. So that is a really amazing journey, to start. So when did you decide that this was what you wanted to do and this is what you wanted to pursue?
Um, I think it came like over time. It just kind of skyrocketed over time. But when I first started training was in March 2019. And
Hmm.
shortly into it, I had like a knee injury, which it wasn't anything tough, but it just took a while to rehabilitate. And by the time I came back, it was the start of COVID. So I was like, damn, I just spent going to all these classes, watching everyone else train, working a lot on my character and my promo, but I was ready to get in ring again. And then it felt like the ball just being kicked away from me again. And so then through COVID, though, also, I happened to have a free week of holidays that originally I was going to go to Australia and see my sister give birth to her baby, and Australia had been shut down, so I went to Mexico instead to visit a friend, and I got to know lucha libre, and that was just mind blowing to come to a country where wrestling is held in such high regards. And I remember being at the airport and being like, "Mom, I think I'm gonna be coming back here pretty soon, and I'm gonna be staying here for a while." And she's like, "No, you're a marketing manager. Don't quit your job." And I'm like, I'll see about it. And then, like in December 2020, is when I quit my job and decided to invest my savings and all of my time into becoming a pro wrestler, because I feel like if you want to get 100% of the results, you need to invest everything and go all in. That's what I'm doing. So, yes, that's how it all got
Yes.
rolling.
Yes, I admire that because, of course, when you want to do something like, and not even just in wrestling, but just in life, you need to put a whole lot into it. Otherwise, what are you exactly you doing it for? And it's so funny that you mentioned, your mom and how she was like, "No, don't do it. You have this good job. Why would you, throw
Mhm.
that away, just for this?" But you knew that this was what you wanted and that was your passion. And I admire your ability to sort of stick to that and basically just put your all into it in order to start chasing your dream. Like, I completely get that. I really get it. And I think that that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been. I felt like with the when the pandemic happened, I felt like we all kind of felt how short life is, and like if you
Definitely.
find a passion, and gladly we've all found wrestling, but everybody has different kinds of passions, and I think that's something so valuable to find in life, and having the chance and the privilege to pursue it um, is really heaven sent.
Yes, it is. And it's just, and even with the pandemic, it's just a lot of people tried to make the very best that they could out of that situation as much as they could. And then it allowed us to sort of sit and sort of treasure things that we may have taken for granted before. So I'm glad that all of that, just basically pushed you to want to pursue more of your dreams and live life, the way that you want to live. So I completely admire that and I get that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely
yeah.
outside of the comfort zone, but as we often hear, is that outside of the comfort zone is where the magic happens.
Yeah, and it also helps you to grow too. So I totally get it. So, what was the best lesson that you learned during your training?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think overall, just consistency and making yourself uncomfortable, like in the sense that um, to stay ready, you have to continuously push yourself and try new things and make yourself try them also. I think that's really valuable. And yeah, I think that's probably like consistency and continuing to push yourself. Um, I think are the main things for me.
Yes, I completely understand that consistency because when people see that you are consistent and that and that you give 110% with hard work, they'll see that and then it'll, take you incredibly far. So I get that. And then also in terms of, jumping out of your comfort zone, I actually had an experience with that when I actually went to New York this past weekend and rode on the subway for the first time by myself with the help of a friend. And so I completely understand it's uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me because, of course, down here in Alabama, we don't really have a subway system like that. So I was just like, I've never done this before, but I'm gonna try because I really need to get to this place. And I did, and it was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So
Oh, that's so cool.
so yeah, in that I understand like sometimes you do have to be uncomfortable in order to realize how far you can go. So I'm glad that you learned that lesson.
It's
So
funny that you
yeah.
mentioned public transport because for me it's quite the opposite. That in Switzerland, where I was living the last like 10 years, we have public transport, and so I never drove anywhere. Like I have the permit to drive, but I never needed to. And my partner at the time left driving, so if we ever needed to go somewhere, he'd do it. And so I never needed to. And then I came to the States, and I mean, when I was a trainee, I would always just on the weekends catch a ride with Jazz or Rodney Mack or Thunder Rosa or any of my fellow trainees and go to events like that. And even then, when I started wrestling, I would still catch rides and make sure somebody else was on the show too. But then eventually got to a point where like it was just me and I needed to rent a car and I needed to drive. And every time now, like it gets slightly better, but it's still super scary for me just because I don't have the reps driving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay, take the good. Like you control the AC, you control the music, you control the podcast, you can take as many breaks as you want. But I'm always very terrified also for driving, just because the US is huge. Like Switzerland, you can drive from one side to the other in like 3.5, 4 hours. And here
Wow.
I do this like on a weekly basis, like when I'm going to OVW in Louisville. So yeah, it's
That's
definitely always exciting.
that's interesting to hear about, the differences between Switzerland and the United States. Because I was actually going to go on and ask you, like, what are some other differences, between Switzerland and the US, and how did you adapt to those, even outside of transportation? Because I know it has to be, vastly different.
Yes, I mean, mostly the transportation is what I feel the most. And of course, like just like daily things, like for us, like the tax is always included in the price. So here often I'm like, oh, this is so cheap. And then there's a completely different price at the end. I'm like, what happened? And they're like, oh no, it's just sales tax. I'm like, what? Why? Um, I do notice that here, like all the drinks are ice cold, and I've also gotten used to it. So I remember, like, just when I was in Switzerland 2 weeks ago, because I went home for a bit, and I actually
Mhm.
just flew in yesterday. Um, Somebody gave me some drink, and it like had like two ice cubes in it. Whereas, like now from the US, I'm used to like there being more ice cubes than water, and I'm like, this is off. So yeah, but it's just I mean basically food stuff that I noticed the most because I used to work in marketing for food. So I think everything's just a lot bigger and distances are bigger, I would say. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Now, it's kind of funny, like maybe one day I'll make it to Switzerland. Maybe one day. We'll see. So what were some difficulties that you faced as you began your wrestling training?
um I think like overall it's just because before I worked at an office job like way back, and then obviously adjusting to it being more physical and focusing more on what your body needs and rest schedules. Meal plan, like obviously have a workout routine and a meal plan, but that never was like that much of a deal to me because I'm just very focused, and in this sense food now is like fuel,
Mhm.
and it's just something that my body needs to keep going. Um, so I think initially just like gotta get the progress in and get the reps and keep them going, and then over time you see the results. I find like I watched back some of my early matches a few months back, and you could see night and day. And at the time, you were doing the best you could, but then you're like, okay, but it's good to see that you've become much better now too. So
Yeah, like I find I have those issues myself. Like since I'm a host and I'm also a commentator as well, like it is so
mhm,
hard for me to listen back to older things because it's like I'm the type of person where I'll pick myself apart for
mhm,
my mistakes. And then I'll just be like, you know what, I never want to do this again. Either I'll feel
mhm,
like that, or
mhm.
sometimes I'll be like, you know what, maybe I've gotten a little bit better, or maybe here and there I can just tweak a few things and then maybe it'll be a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
always valuable for you to also see like improvements that you've made, or to have somebody who hasn't seen you in a while see you and be like, oh, I can really see that you've been hitting the gym. Whereas every day you go, you're like, do I have to? Yes, you do, because it's part of the job. But I still wouldn't say like I've not fallen in love with the gym by any means, but I love wrestling, and it's a prerequisite to be in great shape to be able to do the sport that we love so much. So yeah. I usually listen to wrestling podcasts. That really pushes me kind of through. And then I'm like giggling to myself.
yeah, usually when people find things that they want to listen to, like podcasts or music, that actually makes them want to actually go forth with their workouts or with, anything that they're doing, like work related things or definitely like exercise related things. So it's good that you have your thing that actually helps to zone you out a bit so you can get that goal finished. I know I probably should go to the gym myself, but this isn't about me. Um so you mentioned earlier that you have trained with Dr. Tom Pritchard and with Rodney Mack and Jazz, who are legends in the wrestling game. Like, what are some really cool lessons that you've learned from all of these people? Because they have, they are well traveled in their wrestling journeys. So, what are some of the greatest things that you've learned from the likes of those people?
Well, after I trained 3 months in Mexico, it was actually the fact that Jazz, Thunder Rosa, and Rodney Mack had a school together in Texas, and they had like a lot of women training together, and that really drew me in. And I, at the time, had a short video call that a friend of mine set up with Thunder Rosa. Just talked to her real quick, and she's like, "Yeah, come on over. We'd love to have you." And that's what really like made me then move over to the US and convinced me to go there. And I think all of these four coaches are really high on authenticity, being real, working hard, and paying dues. And that's something that I think they have all ingrained in me, just having that work ethic, and that if you work hard, like opportunity will present itself to you.
Definitely. I'm more than sure that they did instill that hard work in you, and I'm glad that you were able to have that experience. I actually
And
called,
find hard cam. That's also find the
yes,
hard cam always.
yes. I actually called one of Jazz's matches during her retirement tour last year.
Oh, cool. Who did she wrestle at the time?
It wasn't really a singles match with her. I believe it was more so of a tag team match. It was between Heather Monroe and Ray Lynn versus Jazz and the Woad.
Oh, nice.
And it was
Yeah,
pretty extreme. I loved it.
they're so fierce. Yeah, it was such a honor and privilege to learn from them. And then now I've been to NWA a bunch, like helping out doing crew. In fact, they are having another great event this weekend and tapings next week. So I think I'll see them then.
Definitely. So so you would say that you've sort of adapted to the independent wrestling scene pretty well?
I think it's definitely more me, like the American style and the character based storytelling rather than lucha libre.
Mhm.
It's just, I really enjoy the entertainment part of it, and the people like cutting promos. That's really what excites me the most.
Yeah, I think cutting promos is probably the coolest part, but something that I am learning is the fact that it's not as simple as a lot of people would think because of course, in real life there are lots of people in wrestling who may or may not talk or aren't as talkative in real life. So they sort of have to train themselves in order to get in front of a camera and actually sound clear and coherent. But then there are other people who are just natural born talkers and just aren't afraid of a camera at all. So what would you say, you sort of fall? Like, do you love the camera or did you have to work up your way to cutting great promos?
I'm definitely an outgoing person. I'm extroverted. I love meeting new people. I'm not shy at all. So that's definitely more the category. As I commented earlier, like when I was injured, that gave me a lot of time to think about my character and just get the reps in. And what training at Dr. Tom Pritchard's really helped me with is just connecting all the puzzle pieces of the different places that I trained to like create a whole picture. And he also offers promo training, which also the Dog Pound Dojo did in back in Texas. And that's just really making you get those reps because that's the only way to get better is go every time and push yourself. And then sometimes they give you like a word, and then you have to mention cut your promo on that, and just to keep getting ready and keep getting better. I think that's what's super important, and like working on presentation skills and yeah. But yeah, I love it a lot.
Yeah, I think I would like it a lot too. If I were, interested in becoming a wrestler, I think the promo part would probably be the most fun part because I'm a very creative mind, so I feel like doing something like that would probably be in my wheelhouse of things. But the fighting part would scare me. Like that part would scare me a lot because I'm just not violent in that way, like in the sense that I like to fight or something like that, or I like to wrestle, and then I hate pain. So I really admire and respect wrestlers for everything that they do, and referees too, because it's just like you're putting
Yes, it's
yourself
everyone.
and you're putting your body on the line, and that's just a lot. I just have a lot of respect for people who can do that because I just know I couldn't.
I competed in judo when I was in primary school. I did like 3 or 4 years, which like I was so small. I don't like. I think I have some small parts of it ingrained in me, but I wouldn't like see myself today as like a judoka. But I think that was definitely something that has like some touches of wrestling in it. And then I played soccer when I played defense. So like it's either you attack the ball or you attack the opponent. That was always my philosophy. I'm like, you're not passing here, so it is what it is. And I'm also a singer. I used to
Mhm.
be in a lot of bands, so I feel like in the end that all just kind of mixed up together into this perfect combination of wrestling prerequisites.
Definitely, because I love hearing stories about wrestlers who basically participated in so many different sports and other fighting styles at a time. And then you see them sort of apply it to their wrestling style that they create, as they, learn new things and as they're creating their own wrestling arsenal. So I believe that's very helpful. And then the fact that you have experience, in entertainment with singing and with music too, like that's a different sort of talent to have in your back pocket because you never know when you can use it. Because, like in wrestling, it's like you can wind up utilizing all of your talents all in one place. I think that's one of the best parts about wrestling as a whole is the fact that you can take every experience you've ever had in life and put it in that one thing.
Yeah,
So,
and like even
yeah.
small things that you like experience in the day can be part of a promo in the end. And I think what like being on stage previously taught me is that you're always going to be nervous, you're always going to have butterflies, but that's because you care. And I think the moment that you don't have those would be very sad because it just means that you're not as invested. So it's normal to get like the tingly sense before you go out.
Exactly. So who would you say has been your best opponent or your toughest opponent so far?
Well, my recent I had a string of matches against Dream Girl Ellie in OVW. So I
Mhm.
think those have been very exciting to work with. I enjoyed working with the current OVW champ, Freya, the Slayer,
Mhm.
at the time, just because she was my first opponent who had a clear like strength and size advantage, so it made it more challenging for me to combat her. Um, yeah, I think those would be. I also really enjoyed my matches against Arya Alexander, and I think those are top of mind right now.
Okay. That's a pretty solid list of opponents that I'm more than sure have given you really great matches. So who would you say is your dream opponent? Someone you haven't faced yet?
My personal favorite wrestler is Charlotte Flair, so I would definitely name her. And also Thunder Rosa, who's been a great mentor and coach to me. I would definitely love to face either of these women.
Yeah, those are two incredibly solid choices. It's like you have Charlotte Flair, who's just one of the stellar athletes in WWE, and she's a multi time champion. So, facing someone with her type of pedigree would be amazing for you. And then I'm more than sure that her facing you would be amazing for her. And then on top of that, you have Thunder Rosa, who we send well wishes to on today,
Mhm.
um, who is just so great as a wrestler and all of her background and stuff. And then with her having a hand in helping to create your career, I'm more than sure that would be an amazing full circle match as well. So yeah, I think that would be doable for you. I think you could do it.
And of course, I'm always like excited for any match because you always learn so much, like just by wrestling, and that's really what I want to be, like the best that I can be. So I think I'm always especially excited when I have opponents that have a lot more experience than me because it allows me to learn from them directly. But either way, it's always a very lovely experience to get in the ring and give it my all.
Definitely. So what are some experiences that you have had outside of the ring in terms of working with other promotions, and what would you say is the wildest experience you've had?
Oh, wildest. I think just the most exciting moment, or one of a very exciting moment, was when I had my first match at OVW because I had been writing them for 3 months every week, once or twice, asking them to give me an opportunity. And then I had been working as a heel mostly previously, and I got there and they told me, yes, you got your first match and you're going to be babyface. I was like, okay, let's get it, because I knew that there had been plenty of persons that had like a first match there and that hadn't been called back. So I was um, equally excited and terrified. And then when after the match, they told me that they'd love to have me back, and now I've been back ever since. Whenever I'm in the U.S., that's been really just a heartwarming experience. And I think outside of the ring, also for me, something that you can't put a price on is having like little girls come up to you and be like, "Oh, you did so great!" or cheer for you, or "I want to be a wrestler. You did so great. I loved your match." I mean, those like that melts my heart. You can't fight it.
Not at all. Like, if it's one thing I know I love, is like watching children watch wrestling. Like,
Yeah,
kids are
they
just,
get so into it. It's so fun.
yeah, they're so pure and they're just so excited about it. And then it just melts your heart. And then it just reminds you of where you're from, and, or at least when you used to watch it as a child. Because I know I watch it, I've been watching it since I was 4. So anytime I go to any wrestling events and I see children get into it, it just makes me so happy.
Also, one time I was managing, and there's like a crowd of like 40, 50 children on one side of the ring. And I turned around and I felt like something at the back of my head, and it was somebody had thrown like a drink bottle at me. And I was like,
Oh
okay. And then
no.
it was like the break, and I went to sign some things. and a mom with a kid came up to me and she's like, "Somebody wants to apologize to you." And I was like, "Ah, what's up?" And then it was just, yeah, the kid got caught up in the moment, and apologized. I was like, "Oh, it's fine. I'm okay, but thanks." Yeah, but that was at the moment pretty surprising.
That's pretty old school right there. Oh my God. You threw a bottle at you? My God.
Mhm.
Cold world.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, how do you feel about the state of women's wrestling? And what would you say is really good about it? And what would you say can be improved?
I mean, even just in the time that I've been watching wrestling, it's been really excited. The rise of just how many women's wrestlers there are, how many great women's wrestlers there are, wrestling promotions, all women's wrestling promotions such as Belladonna, who you mentioned, also Mission Pro Wrestling, of course. Um, and I love to see it. We've seen main events with women in the big promotions. Of course, I would always like for there to be even more women's matches on promotions cards. That's always something that I'm rooting for, and to have deep storylines within the rosters, so that it's not like just about the main title, but across. And I think at OVW we've done really well. That we've had, I think most weeks we have 2 or 3 matches that have women. We've had women special also, so I really enjoy being part of it. And I think it's great to see where we've come from, but also where we can still go as women's wrestling united. What are your thoughts on it?
Wow. I love it when my when guests talk ask questions back at me. It's fun. Well, what I think of women's wrestling now is that it's definitely grown exponentially since I've started watching it, like I said, at the age of 4. The first women I ever saw on TV were the Nitro Girls for WCW.
Oh,
And I love, watching people dance because I love to dance
hmm.
myself. But we've gone from that, and then we've also gone from women just being valets for men, and also gone from us not being taken as seriously from 60-second matches to from 4-minute matches to full scale 15 to 20-minute matches. And that's something that I am so proud of seeing, not even just on television, but also in the independent promotions as well, as I learn more and more about the independents. It's like I just love seeing women like me, or just women who aren't like me as well, just getting the opportunity to show what they have to offer and to show and prove that they are just as that they are equal to the men, in all athletic forms. I just love it across the board, not just in wrestling, but also in sports, like in all sports as well. So it makes me happy and it makes my heart swell. But something else that I do want to see more of in women's wrestling is the fact that I want more women behind the scenes, because in a lot of major mainstream promotions, you see a lot of men, ahead of creative, a lot of men on the writer teams, and it's barely any women there. And then there aren't a lot of women producers as well, at major mainstream companies as well. And also when it comes to pre-shows or panels or stuff that they might have, it's very male centric, and I want women to have more of a voice as more than just the mediators, but also the intellectuals as well, because men are not the only ones who know about sports. We know about sports too, like from an analysis standpoint, and even when it comes to wrestling from a story standpoint. So I feel like the more you get women in it from not just an aesthetic point of view, like with ring announcing and stuff like that, but from an intellectual point of view, the more, diverse it'll be. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, I love the athleticism part of it. I absolutely adore it. But I just want more women from an intellectual point of view to actually run the stories, write the stories, be camera women, more referees, and also commentators and announcers as well. So that's how I feel about
No, 100%. I think the more diverse viewpoints you get about it, the more inclusive it becomes. And I think the bigger wrestling is, the better and more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've always say that I feel like the world of wrestling owes women a lot because there have been so many women in history who have just, held wrestling, up for so long but barely got any credit for it. So I
Hmm.
think now, we're reaping the benefits of all of those women who paved the way for us. But, we still have a long way to go. But I feel like we're on the right road now and I'm hopeful for it. Definitely.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm glad you asked me that question back because I really don't I do get to address it, but I'm glad that I was able to address it here. So thank you. That was cool.
Sure.
So you have worked with multiple promotions. You've mentioned OVW. You mentioned working backstage for Impact Wrestling. So if the opportunity came, would you sign with a major mainstream company? And if you feel comfortable, would you feel comfortable saying, which one you would want to work with?
I'm super open about the fact that I want to make wrestling my living. That's why I'm investing all my savings into it because I believe in Michelle Green, and so should
Hmm.
everybody else. And so that also means that, yes, of course, I'm looking to down the road make a living off of it and to be under contract. And whoever will offer me that opportunity, I will be eternally grateful.
Definitely. That's a pretty good answer. And I look forward to seeing you, on any major mainstream promotion that you might, go with or sign with or whatever. Cause I mean, you do really hard work and I can see that. So I really believe that you deserve to have that opportunity. And you're right. Everybody should believe in Michelle Green. And it's good that you believe in Michelle Green too. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then how is anybody else going to believe in you?
Yes, that's also one of the things that I like a lot. And also, some of the women wrestlers that have made it, I asked them how it was and how did they get there. And they also tell me about like the struggles that they've experienced. So if ever I feel that things are hard, then I just go back to that. And I think as any entrepreneur, any person with a passion or a goal is then we just think, this is just a struggle before the rise, and the cream always rises to the top. So where there's a will, there's a way, and I think that's just, I think, a great way to stay motivated.
Definitely, absolutely. So, what would you say are some of your hobbies outside of wrestling?
Well, I don't think there's that much anymore, to be honest, because this is 24/7. I did just recently go back home, and I lived there with my hubby in Switzerland, and he does strongman competition, so we go work out together, try to keep each other on our meal plans. And I think like I just enjoy spending time with obviously with him, with my friends, with my family. Um, I do love food a lot, so we also went to Italy for a wedding this
Oh,
past weekend, and yes, I mean it's only the water weight from the travel, of course, and there was totally no pizza had, no pasta was had, or any pastry. So but yeah, I'm a very social person. If I get the chance to hang out with people that are dear to me, that's really something I love. And um, I'm fully dedicated to wrestling, to going to the gym, to training, to getting myself to different promotions and helping out and creating content also for my social media platforms at I'm Michelle Green, and that's just what I'm very passionate and slightly obsessed with. So,
that's good though. I mean, that's valid. I mean, spending time with family and friends is a very valid hobby because I mean, of course you have to hold the people, you love to you very closely. And that's very valid if you're seeking to always get to know them and have better relationships with them. That totally works out. And I love how you and your husband went to Italy and you didn't eat any of like the pasta or the pizza. That would have hurt me because like that's their thing over there. It's their pasta and their
yeah.
pizza. So I can imagine being there and not eating. Oh my god, not
No,
eating
no,
that
we
stuff.
did. We
Oh my
did. We
God.
did. We did. We did. Um, no, I'm 100% fortunate to have such a supportive partner who also has a passion, who understands, and I mean, we text each other all day, and we should usually call for like about 1 or 2 hours a day too. And yeah, that's just yeah, what keeps me sane, I think. And it's always good to have love and feel supported. So I'm very fortunate.
That's good that he supports you like that. And I love how he's a strong man. So the both of you guys are probably just lifting weights together. Like that's a cool thing
Well,
to
it's
think
like
about.
him is lifting like I don't know the whole house, and I'm lifting my few pounds bicep curls there. But yeah, but it's motivating to go there with someone else, even though it takes obviously much longer than me, just because his my gym workout is obviously complementary to my wrestling, and for him the gym workout is the main workout. So
Yeah, I totally understand that. Shout out to supportive spouses out there. That's great. And shout out to your
hmm
supportive spouse. That's amazing.
yes.
So, what would you say wrestling has given you that you deeply treasure?
I think it's like happiness and a purpose. It sounds so simple, but it really excites me. And I think before in Switzerland, we treasure time a lot, being on time, having plans. People often make plans, like obviously vacation. Yes, we do plan like sometimes can be like 6 to 12 months ahead, but even like meeting your friends, sometimes it can be like I don't know 2 to 3 months.
Hmm.
And so wrestling really teaches you to be very flexible and to think short term and just be able to adapt. And I think I've definitely lost the ability to, or yeah, I'm not able to plan ahead that much. Usually it's like 2 to 3 months. At this point, I think I've got the rest of the year figured out. Um, but yeah, it's just a roller coaster that I'm riding on.
Yeah, I completely understand that. That's kind of what my life is sort of turning into. As I do commentary and I do certain things, it's like you think you have the couple your next few months planned out, you think you're gonna have a little bit of free time, but then something else pops up all of a sudden, and you're just like, oh well, I got to readjust some stuff over here and move some stuff over here and do all that. But it's fun though, and I actually enjoy that part of it because it's just like it gives you something to do and it gives you more to look forward to. And
And a
I'm
book that I'm
glad.
currently reading is called The Secret. And I had previously read it like 3 or 4 years ago, and it wasn't much for me, but um, something that a friend of mine also told me is like, think as if you already made it. So always talk about when you make it, not if. And something that the books talks about is like just having the positive mindset about the things that you want and attracting them. And like you said, sometimes we get news that I don't know, maybe a show is canceled, it's postponed, or just different news that aren't as pleasant. But going ahead with the mind that the next time I open it, there will be good news, then that's a really positive way to kind of navigate these waters.
Definitely. And someone in the comments, Nikki Bougie, who's one of our hosts for Women's Wrestling Talk, said that that's a good mind to have. And she also says, hello, and that she is happy that you're here. So I just
Oh,
wanted to
thank
give her
you.
a shout out. Yeah.
She's super sweet.
Yeah, she's amazing. I love her so much. So, my last question in the interview is what would you say the future holds for you?
Um, I think, well, I know that I'm here in the US in August and September. I think I'm looking to spend the rest of the year in Europe and travel Europe wrestling wise and train there. So I'm very excited about that. And then the future holds getting signed in 2023.
Yeah, that would be cool. It's so funny you said Europe, and in my brain, the first thing I think of is NXT Europe, and I'm just like,
I
Michelle.
mean, I am the international Swiss sensation. I do speak 5 languages fluently.
Yes, that is a cool flex to have.
Everyone
Five
knows where to find
languages?
me, and I'm Michelle Green.
That is a huge flex to have. Well, we've ended the interview portion of our time together, but we do have another segment called Rapid Hot Tags, and they're
Ooh,
really fun questions. So I'm going to ask you all of these fun questions, and we're just going to go, as fast as we can. So,
yes.
if you could pick any celebrity to have dinner with, who would it be?
Celebrity. Um, I think Roger Federer seems nice. He's a Swiss tennis superstar
Hmm.
and the ace of tennis ever. So I think he would be fun. He's also my mom's idol.
Oh, cool. That would be a really cool
Yes.
dinner. So I did notice on Instagram and on Twitter that you have an excellent smile, like an
Aww.
absolutely excellent smile. So, what would be the one thing that makes you smile every single time?
When my boyfriend texts me, his name says like heart and then his name, and then whenever it vibrates, because he has like a personalized vibration thingy, that just yeah, I'm always happy to hear from him.
Okay, cool. So, what is your favorite show to
And
binge?
gelato, food wise,
Oh,
Italian
gelato.
gelato is the
Yes,
best. Yes.
yes, I get that. What would be your favorite show to binge watch?
Uh, hmm. I used to love Jane the Virgin too, because sometimes I like easy soapy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I have seen like a total of 20 seasons of Survivor, but not recently.
Ooh.
Yeah, but I really used to love that for like the social dynamics and the storytelling, I think. How about you? What are you binge watching?
Well, basically, I binge watched all of Succession on HBO.
Okay.
That is a really good show. It's a very different show than what I would have normally watched.
Hmm.
But to watch these siblings scramble for power over this media company is pretty insane. And it's a really good dark comedy. Like it's really good. And this guy, Jesse Anderson, I think is his last name, he made
Hmm.
it. And he's from the UK, I believe, and it is a very good show. I
Ooh.
definitely recommend it because it's pretty insane. I can't wait till it comes back to HBO. Can't wait.
Oh, good.
Yes. So one question, your house containing everything you own catches on fire. After saving your loved ones and your pet, what is the one thing that you would make a final dash to save?
Oof. I've moved around quite a lot, so I don't think I have as many things anymore. It looks at well, like in the backstage is all like chaos of because I just got in yesterday.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm trying to think all the stuff I have in my house. I mean, I have like my resting notebooks. That was like the first thing that popped into mind. Um, I always have in my hand luggage my gear, so
Hmm.
I think those are very important to me. My resting boots were like the first item that I got for resting, and I used to always put them close to my bed and look at them and be like, "I'm gonna lace you up real soon." So those would all be good options, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, that's a very good question. Hard to decide.
Yeah. It is pretty hard to decide for a lot of people, so it's okay.
Hmm.
But yeah, the wrestling gear sounds like a pretty good answer.
Yeah, because I usually say like the favorite thing that I have is like the ring from my partner. But
Hmm.
I mean, I'm wearing that, so don't need to get that. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would go with the wrestling gear.
Yeah. So, if you were able to live the life of a 90-year-old and retain either the mind or the body of a 30-year-old for the
Oof.
last 60 years of your life, which would you want?
Okay, come again.
Okay, I can say it again. Um, If you were able to live to the age of 90
Okay.
and retain either the mind or body of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which would you want?
I don't want to stay 30 in the mind. I think I want to grow. So then I guess I would be young looking with an old mind.
Yeah, I think that's the better choice because
Also
honestly,
health wise, right?
yeah, like I feel like
You
that's
can
the
do
better
more stuff.
choice.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, be older in the mind because you'll have wisdom to not make dumb decisions and then you can still look young and be like, yeah.
Yeah, or like consciously make bad decisions, but be like, hey, my body's got it still.
Yeah. So essentially being a vampire would be fun.
Yeah, or you can wrestle for quite a long time then, I guess.
Mhm. That too. And last question, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
I would like to teletransport. That's an easy one.
Yeah,
Spend a
that's
lot of time traveling, so that's the one. Very convenient.
Yeah, that's a good one. So we've basically finished our rapid hot tags. So now we're going to go to the comments. This is normally where we would have our panel questions, but I'm going to go to the comments because they have been coming in. Bobby Petito said hello. JD said hi. JD also had a question. He said, "Does Michelle get mistaken for Atlee Hatwell on a regular basis?"
Who's that? Let me see. I'm gonna look at who's Haley Atwell. Do you know who it is?
Yes, I do. She's the actress who plays Captain Carter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the Captain
Oh,
America
I
series.
do think I have been told that once before. I also got told once, like the actress who plays the Terminator lady that
Oh
I've been
wow.
told. And then when I was like younger, they used to tell me like JoJo the singer.
Yeah, I see that actually. Yeah. I can see
So
JoJo definitely.
yeah, I mean those. I really like Rachel Bilson, but I guess we don't look alike, sadly.
Yeah, Rachel
Or Gal
Bilson.
Gadot is gorgeous too.
Oh yeah, Gal Gadot is amazing. Like, oh my god, she's so gorgeous. And Rachel Bilson, oh my god, it felt like that was a blast from the past, the 2000s. God.
Yeah, I watched Heart of Dixie though too. That one was cute too.
Yeah,
I
that
like watching like just chill stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that show's pretty interesting because that show is set in Alabama and I'm from there, so it's just kind of like,
Oh,
yeah, I'm from Alabama, like born
yeah.
and
When I
raised.
first went to Nashville, I mean I'd seen the TV series Nashville, but I thought like Nashville was gonna be like just one road and then like a bunch of country saloons. Like that's my very simple mind. And then I got there, it was like a real big city, and I'm like, oh, I guess not. Then it makes more sense. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty common misconception about the South. It's okay. Cuz I know the part of Birmingham I live in, it's the city, but a lot of people come down here and think, "Oh, well, it's going to be the country." No, it's not. It's not. Like there are certain places in the state that is, but my part isn't. It's the city. So,
I
yeah.
mean, Knoxville is pretty rural, I would say. I like Louisville downtown because there's like one main street and has a lot of shops.
Mhm.
Um, I think those are like. I like New Orleans when I went there. Like I went there when WrestleMania was there.
Oh, yes.
And New York, I went like a billion years ago, but that was cute at the time too. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I love traveling in the United States. There's still a lot of states I need to go to though, so, we're going to figure that out one day.
it's a very big country.
Yes, it is. It's huge. Okay, JD says also in the US we like a little soda with our ice or a little ice with our
Yes,
soda. Yes, we
yes.
do. Yes, we do. Um he also says the amount of talent right now is incredible. So many ladies who put on quality matches, but so many of them are championship material. Definitely. And of course, we had hello from Nikki. And then JD said, as our final comment, I hope Michelle at least indulged in gelato while in Italy. Did you?
Yes. Oh, I love it. They put whipped cream on the ice cream too, and I used to be very like experimental in the sense that I tried a lot of different ice cream flavors, like I don't know, basil or like tea flavors. But it all boils down to that chocolate, like fondente, which is like dark chocolate, is just it's my favorite. Yeah. And sometimes they have like 6 different kinds of chocolate to pick from, and I'm like, I'll just get 3 flavors.
That sounds good. That sounds really good. Well, Michelle Green, the international Swiss sensation, thank you so much for coming on Women's
Thank you.
Wrestling Talk and having an interview with us and stuff. So, if you don't mind telling everybody where they can find you and follow you and see what you've got going on and any events that you have coming up, you can tell us about that now.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I've been following the website and the podcast for a while, so I was very happy to get invited. I'm Michelle Green on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm also on TikTok, and I'd love for everyone to come along on the journey and see me tomorrow. I'm gonna be on OVW. You can catch that on Fight TV as well as on like 50 different TV channels. And there's going to be a pay-per-view also for OVW this Saturday, which is called The Big One. It's going to be our big summer finale after a summer tour that we've had with lots of shows. So that's going to be very exciting. And then keep a lookout as I'll be in the US in September before then returning to Germany for WXW on October 1st and to Switzerland on October 15th.
Yeah, you got a lot going on, miss. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Again, I just want to thank you because this was a really great time. And hopefully, we'll be able to have you back. You know, you're welcome anytime. So, of course, you can follow me, your girl, Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. And follow Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet, on Instagram and Twitter at WW Talk Pod, and check out our website at www.talkpod.com. Follow us on Twitch, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and just check out any and everything that we've got going on because, of course, we have all of our articles coming out. We're working on stuff for Hispanic Heritage Month and just so many other different things that we've got going on. Check out our merchandise. We have t-shirts saying "We Ride for Naomi." It's not just professional women's wrestling. This is professional wrestling and so many different goodies as well. So please continue to support Women's Wrestling Talk wherever you see us and watch us wherever you go. But in the meantime, in between time, this has been Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And until next time, bye, you guys.
Bye. Have a good evening.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.